Okay, thanks so much, Janice. If you could just let everybody in the waiting room in while
Yep.
I'm speaking, that would be great. Okay, welcome everybody. I believe we have quite a few participants from different areas of the world, from China, Indonesia, and Singapore. So hopefully this presentation will answer all of the questions that you have about taking the Masters of Education in English at NIE. I'll be leaving quite a lot of time after this presentation for frequently asked questions. So don't worry if I don't cover anything that you expect me to cover in this presentation, because there will be time at the end of the session for you to ask any question that you like about the program. Right, okay. Right, this presentation is going to cover what the program is, how it's structured, who it's for, how long it takes, and the different kinds of learning that you can expect during the program. Now, just to give you a little bit of back history on this program, going back about 10 to 15 years ago, we actually had two master's degrees in English at NIE. One was in English literature and one was in English language. So they're in two different disciplines. Both of them were the Masters of Education, and they both focused on how you approach those different disciplines from a pedagogical perspective. But we decided to integrate those two disciplines around about 10 years ago. So now the MEd in English is actually designed for English literature and English language teachers who are not only teaching these subjects, but are also interested in exploring how these different disciplines interact with each other. There's a growing understanding in English teaching now that literature and language are very, very deeply connected. And that's the thinking behind this program. We're really looking at the interconnectedness of literature and language. So naturally, most of us are interested in literature or language as a discipline more than we're interested more in one than the other. Not many of us are interested in both subjects equally, but that's actually fine if you're doing this program, because this gives you the opportunity to take courses that look at both topics equally, but also take courses that specialize in one or the other. So how is the program structured? Okay. We have three courses in the program that you must take. The first is the core course, which is educational inquiry, and that's essentially a research course. We then have two required specialization courses, which is MEL 901 Language and Literature Education and MEL 902 Analyzing Literature and Language. These are two courses that look at language and literature education to an equal extent. And then after you've done those three required courses, you take electives. And these electives can be chosen from 14 courses. All of these electives I'll talk about on the next slide. Aside from these English electives, you also take what's called an open elective, which is anything from any NIE master's degree. So outside of the MEd in English, you would take a course in psychology or a course in child development, really anything that you're interested in. And then finally, at the end of the program, you'll take either integrated project or a dissertation, and I can share more about that later. Okay, so for the electives that you have to choose, you can see here that most of the electives are focused in on one thing or the other. So we have a number of electives on the left-hand side that are really focused on language studies or linguistics. And then We have electives that are focused on literature, such as teaching Shakespeare, literary theory and teaching, and world literatures, etc. And then finally, we have the occasional electives such as literature, culture, and education, which actually balances literature and linguistics. But that elective is quite rare because, as I said, most of the electives specialize in literature or language. So really, you've got the opportunity to explore whatever interests you the most. How long does it take? Well, if you're a full-time student, you can actually complete the MEd in 1 year. That's if you do not do a dissertation. If you just do the integrated project route, you can actually complete in 1 year. If you do the dissertation, which is much more extensive as a piece of work, you're probably going to complete it in 1.5 years full time. But most of our students actually
Recording in
complete the MEd
progress.
in 1 year. If you take the MEd on a part-time route, it will take you 2 to 4 years, depending on how many courses you take per semester. So you can actually pace the program as slow or as fast as you want it to be. What's it like to learn at NIE? We have lots of diverse ways of learning. We have traditional seminars, which are discussion driven. And we also have elements of courses in which students lead the sessions as well and do forms of micro teaching. Along with that, we also have conventional lectures. So you'll find that because we're an institute that's focused on pedagogy, we do actually practice a number of diverse ways of encouraging learning. But in most of these classes, your participation is very important, and your lecturers will be very interested to hear what you've got to say and how you construct your learning with your peers in the classroom. Right, I mentioned the IP or the dissertation. So this is the final project at the end of your program, and they're very different. For the IP, it's a shorter piece of work at 4 to 6,000 words, whereas the dissertation is around about 15,000. Okay. For the integrated project, you actually meet with your fellow students and tutor once every 2 weeks to discuss your project. Whereas for the dissertation, it's much more independent, and you have an individual supervisor who may meet you once a month to guide your research. So whichever way you want to go, of course, you still end up with the same master's degree in the end, but these different approaches cater to your needs and your aims. So, for example, if you want to do a PhD in the future, it's very important that you take the dissertation because that will be the entrance requirement for most universities. But if you just want to get the master's degree as fast as you can, then you can take the integrated project, which is a much shorter piece of work. Is this course right for you and how do you know? Well, if you're passionate about English language and literature and you're interested in them both, this will definitely work for you. One important thing to say is that this is a course for existing English teachers. So it's very important that you currently are practicing as an English teacher. We usually expect you to have a teaching qualification and 1 year of teaching experience full time. So please keep that in mind. If you're in your final year of study at in university, then you will need to get some teaching experience before you apply for the program. Okay. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that whether you end up doing the dissertation or the IP, is it's still competitive. So we have a minimum CGPA of 4.0 for your coursework if you plan to do the dissertation. Okay. So you can't automatically do the dissertation if you're on the program, but if you perform well, you can take the dissertation. Okay. This is a good program for you if you want to obviously improve your pedagogy in either language or literature. And it's also good if you want some flexibility about the types of different courses that you take and how long you have to complete the course. So you can really do it at your own pace. So in total, there are two study modes, full or part-time, between 1 and 4 years. You can shape your own pathway through a choice from 14 electives. And over the course of your program, you'll complete 30 academic units, which is about 7 to 8 courses plus your dissertation or IP. Right now, I'm going to hand you over to two of my current students, who I taught this semester and who are doing very well on the program. And they are going to say a little bit about why they chose the program and what their experience has been like so far. Okay, so for the first speaker, Tom, if you want to activate your uh, camera and microphone, and I'll let you take over from this point.
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, hey.
Hello everyone, I'm Li Tong, and I'm a master student in English education in NIE. I started the program in January and have just completed my first semester. I'm very honored to be here today, and I'd like to share some of my personal experience of studying and living at NIE. First of all, I really enjoy the learning environment at NIE. The classes are very engaging. They are not simply about the professor lecturing and students listening. Instead, professors often organize different kinds of activities, such as games, group discussions, presentations, and classroom tasks. These activities give us many opportunities to think, respond, and learn from each other. Most classrooms are arranged with round tables, and about 5 or 6 students sit around each table, which is much different from universities in China. This makes discussions much easier. We can share our views, listen to different opinions, and work together during class. All of the classmates have teaching experience. They teach at different educational stage and in different contexts. Some teach in public schools, some in international schools, and some in educational institutions. They also come from different countries and educational systems. So everyone bring unique teaching experience into the classroom. This allows us to look at the same issue from different perspectives, which make class discussions very interesting and inspiring. In terms of campus life, NIE also offers a relatively independent and comfortable learning environment. We have our own library, canteen, gym, student lounge, sports field, and swimming pool. These facilities make daily study and life very convenient. I especially like the NIE library and canteen. They are really famous online. The library is definitely a must-visit place in NTU. It has large glass windows, so we can enjoy a beautiful view while studying. The canteen is also one of the most affordable places on campus, and many of its food stalls are quite popular. The NIE gym is another advantage. It is only for NIE students, and it has separate areas for cardio and strength training. So we do not need to compete with students from other colleges for gym space. Overall, I think studying at NIE is an excellent choice. Both the learning and living environment are very supportive. Here, you can relax, focus on your study, and really spend time learning and thinking. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Tom, for sharing that. That's wonderful. I'm glad you're having a nice time here so far, and you're doing very well. Okay, I'll hand over now to another student who's performing well in my class, and that's Simin.
Hi everyone. Um, can everyone see me? Hi everyone, I'm Sming, and I'm very glad to share my experience of studying for this master degree in English education at NIE. I'm also the classmate of Wan Tong. I've already before I applying for this program, I've already working as an intern at an international school in Shanghai for 1.5 years, and um, my first reason to choose to study at NIE is mostly because NIE is part of the Nanyang Technological University, which has a really strong global ranking and has a rich academic resources. So our professors are leading scholars with many publications. So when you are studying at NIE, you'll find that the classes are really interesting and engaging. We can have both the studying experience at this top university and direct access to a lot of resources from our NIE library. And secondly, I think that the curriculum is highly practical. For example, like I have in courses called the curriculum material design in the last semester, which is not just about the series. We have to like evaluate the real textbooks and analyze their strengths and weaknesses, and actually we have to adapt them. So this is really useful for us to becoming a future teachers, like because you know that the textbook is not always the perfect, and learning how to adapt this is the real skills. Also, that we have a course called the English Literature and Linguistics taught by our Professor Joe. This is really valuable for me because just as Joe said, that it keeps the balance between the linguistics and literature. And my bachelor degree was actually in French, not about the English. So you know that I had some gaps in the English linguistics and literature. So these courses can help us to like fill those gaps, and this can give me some core knowledge about how to become an English teacher in the future. So if you want to be an English teacher in the future, just as me, so it's really like valuable to study here to have more like professional skills and learning experiences here. And thirdly, that the teaching style, I think that is really different. Just as Wan Tong said, that we have plenty of opportunities to discuss and speak up in the class, so that everyone has the opportunities to participate in the course and to share about your own opinions. Sometimes like we can even go outside, like just as I remember when we are having the educational inquiry, the professor asks us to go outside and have some observations about the campus, and then we have to like discuss and communicate in the class. So I think this experience is really interesting, and this can truly connects the theory with the practice. So finally, I think that our classmates are all from like different regions and different countries. Some of my classmates are local, they're from Singapore. Some of them are from China, just as what we do, and some of them are from different countries, so that we can share our experiences, share our opinions and different cultures from different countries, and our teaching experiences, our teaching levels. This can, which makes the real classroom experiences to let us to communicate and connect with each other. And some of my classmates, they become my friends after a semester. So I think that learning in NTU, learning in NIE, which gives me a very good platform to share my opinions and give me great professors together with those practical courses. So I think it's interesting, and I really recommend us to like engage in this program. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Simin. Okay. Um, I'm going to move on now to some FAQs shortly. But before the FAQs, I just want to highlight that you can find out more information about the program on the website. There's information about all of the courses that I've discussed, the fees and the application deadlines. And of course, if you have any questions that you don't think of during this session, you can drop me an email at the email address on the slide here. But right now, I'm going to be opening up the Zoom to anybody who has any questions about anything that I haven't covered. I noticed that there are a lot of students here from Indonesia, and my colleague Janice will soon talk about some scholarships that we have for Indonesian students specifically. But before then, if any of you would like to ask me anything, then please do right now, and I'll answer you as best as I can. Okay, anybody? You could use the Zoom function to just raise your hand in the air if you have any question, or you can just take off your if you can just take off the mute and you can just speak. That's also fine. Anyone? Okay, if nobody has any questions, as I said, you can always email me later, and I'll hand over to Janice now to talk about the scholarship available.
Hi everyone. There's actually some scholarship opportunities available for the Indonesian students. So, what is it? The LPDP scholarship, which is a prestigious program funded by the government of Indonesia through the LPDP Indonesia Endowment Fund for Education. It just supports the Indonesian citizens to pursue the master or PhD studies. This scholarship actually covers institution fees and living expenses. So for interested applicants, they might apply directly through the Indonesian government LPDP portal. I'll share the links in the chat later. So next, we also have this in-step LPDP NTU Master Scholarship, which is actually a master scholarship scheme designed for Indonesian citizens who wish to pursue a full-time master degree at NTU. This scholarship is co-funded by LPDP and NTU. So I'll share the two links in the chat. Um,
Okay, Janice, is that everything you'd like to say?
Yes, this is just the LDDP scholarship available for the Indonesian citizens. Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you, Janice.
Then I can actually
Okay.
share the links in the chat, in the Zoom chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So you can
links are in
actually
the
click.
chat.
Yeah.
Okay, I see there's a few questions in the chat. If we could just have a look if I believe that Chloe has been answering some of these questions. Chloe, is there anything here that needs my attention in terms of a question?
Somebody has asked whether they said that their transcript has several low scores in the political theory courses, which actually lowered their GPA. So they're
Okay.
asking whether NIE will have more emphasis on the major course transcripts during the review process.
Yeah, of course. We will have a major emphasis in the review process on the literature and language courses on your transcript. Okay, so if you have low scores in other subjects, that's not so important. As long as you do have a degree in English literature or language that's relevant to the program, that's the only thing that actually matters. So don't worry about those low scores in other subjects. Okay. Okay, I've noticed that there are a few people who are entering the meeting right at the end, unfortunately, but this meeting is being recorded, I believe. So, Chloe, maybe you could share with participants how they can access that recording for the parts that they've missed.
So actually for the recording, it will be uploaded into our PGC website. So I can just link it in the chat box later. So we'll link it
Okay.
later, but it will be uploaded at the end of the e-fair. So it will be after Saturday.
Okay, so after Saturday it can be accessed. That's great. Okay, any more questions in the chat? Anything? Don't think so. Right. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining today. We will end the session there. So anything that you have to oh, and sorry, Chloe, what about the slides? Are they going to be available?
Not so more of the slides, but because it will be recorded, so they can still see the slides as a Zoom recording
Okay.
overall.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Chloe. Right, okay, everybody. So, as Chloe said, after Saturday, you can access the Zoom recording and review the content. And anything that you want to ask, you can drop me an email at any time. All right. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to my students for joining me today and helping out and sharing your experience. That was really wonderful to hear. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.